In an emergency, life or death decisions must be made instantly, often without enough information or equipment or help. And the memories of those moments become indelibly etched. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of people in danger and the men, women, and children who come to their aid on Rescue 911. We begin in a residential neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Much of the footage you'll see was taped early on the morning of August 30th, 1988, as tragic events unfolded. Events that local fire department rescue workers still cannot forget.
It's still just like it was yesterday, like it's been embedded in concrete in your brain.
Exact words I don't remember. I believe it was said, "Scotty, this one's not gonna make it."
Fire department help you?
Please, fire department, it's an emergency.
What's on fire?
A house, and children are in the house.
A neighbor was screaming. The babies were still trapped upstairs. I've had to get them out because I knew the fire was progressing awfully fast. Maybe I was thinking also of my own two kids. As I was making my way up the steps, the heat was getting pretty hot. You know, there was no visibility. Went to my right, found one room. In the room I found some stuffed animals. So I figured that was the room that they were in, but was unable to find anybody. The heat was getting worse, so I knew I had to scramble and hurry up and try to find these kids before it got too hot. I made my way back into the hallway to find another room. Everything lit up. Everything was orange, and I knew the room had flashed, and it was time to get out.
Another firefighter, Greg Tennell, came out of the building. He was smoldering at that time. He had gotten caught in a flashover. We knew that the building was hot, and but just the fact that we knew children were in there, we knew we had to go in and get them. I met Captain George Bennett at the window, and we busted out the window and the window frame, and I entered the room at that time.
Once Kevin left the window, without having any means of traveling back to the window other than touch and feel, I stayed at the window, made a lot of noise to be his lifeline, to allow him a means of getting back to the window once he discovered the children.
It was hot, dark, heavy smoke. I proceeded to work my way around the bed, and I came to my first victim. I believe it was the 6-year-old child.
He returned to the window with the oldest of the 3 children, handed her through the window to me. I reached across the porch roof and passed her over to paramedic Wilmer Scott.
The first thing I heard was, "This one's dead." I said, "No." I'm thinking she's too young, she's too pretty. It's my daughter. She's not dead. She was non-responsive, non-breathing. I knew right then and there we could not leave. We had to start right there. I started talking to her, telling her, "Please come back, stay with us, we can make it."
Entered back into the bedroom, and again worked my way around the bed, found the 2-year-old child.
I took the second child, and he appeared lifeless. Your hope for the child is pretty slim. It was a frightening experience for anybody. You can read all the books you want, you know, and practice all you want, but until you actually do it, you have no idea whatsoever what it's really like. It was a rather hectic scene. I worked on the child for approximately 5 minutes. Every breath I give the child is like his own, him taking a breath.
The 2-year-old boy began breathing.
He still wasn't breathing adequately, so he still needed assistance. But it was a very good feeling, you know, to see him take a breath like that.
The 6-year-old girl was not moved from the porch roof until she had begun to breathe.
When she finally took that one breath, that's all I needed. I said, I've got this one. And I can't describe the feeling. It's a feeling that you have to experience to know what I'm talking about. That was my child. And being my child, I had to do my best.
Jackie Cutler was placed in the same ambulance as her 2-year-old cousin, Ron Hansberry, and rushed to the hospital.
By the time that we got to the medic unit, put her on the stretcher, and using the resuscitator on her, she was breathing real good. I knew that she was going to make it.
The children had been spending the night at their grandparents' house when the fire broke out. One of the last people to be removed was a family friend, brought out with no pulse or respiration.
It's like you're put into autopilot, and I started CPR. It's something that, you know, at the spur of the moment, you don't stop to think, you just jump in and do it. So, I mean, you just couldn't see the man laying there without trying to do something.
Though a heartbeat and respiration were restored, 2 days later, the 20-year-old youth died at the hospital of injuries related to the fire.
I re-entered the room and proceeded again around the bed. I came upon, I believe, the 4-year-old child.
It was obvious the child had been in the smoke environment for a period of time because her clothes were heavily soot-laden. Her face was heavily soot-laden. I could tell immediately that she was not breathing, and shortly thereafter I determined she didn't have a pulse either. We immediately began CPR. I have no children, but that night, it was just like Scotty said, that was my child. And there's no other way of explaining it. When you're there and you do what we do, it becomes your child. We were determined that we were going to do everything we could to help this child. We immediately began transport, and maybe about a minute out from Children's Hospital, we got pulses, we got a heartbeat back. She never regained spontaneous respirations. She never regained consciousness.
Despite their best efforts, 4-year-old Gwendolyn Cutler was pronounced dead the next night. More than a year after the fire, Curtis and Joyce Cutler are grateful that their oldest daughter, Jackie, was saved. And they've begun to accept the loss of her younger sister, Gwendolyn.
The Lord had to make a decision with Gwendolyn. We put our faith in God, and we accepted his answer with our daughter.
I've lived 37 years. I might have lived my life, and she never had a chance to really live hers, so I wish it could have been vice versa. But that's the way it is.
Maybe had I gone to the left at the top of the steps, I could have got to the kids' room a little quicker. And maybe that might have made a difference in saving one of the children's lives. That's maybe the one thing that I think about.
You see people save people's lives all the time, but you never actually know what that person went through. But I know I was deeply moved, and I was so touched. And the first thing I wanted to do was simply see him and hug him and tell him how much I appreciate his efforts, because you could see it in him. Thank you.
That's your parent.
I remember. That was my child. I kept hearing that over and over. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. This particular incident, this family, I guess you might say a little bit of a bond that you were able to help them, and just a good feeling inside that you were able to help them, and it means a lot.
It's a feeling of knowing that I participated in actually saving a life. After so many times I've seen so many lives lost. But I saved this one. When I say I mean the fire department, because no one can take any particular credit. It was a team effort. Everyone did an outstanding job.
Your arms aren't going to fit through, honey. Go ahead.
A poem was written by Mrs. Ethel D. Smith. It was obviously a beautiful lady. And the title is, That Was My Child. That was my child I had to save. That was my child, no cradle, no grave. That was my child, she was so frail. That was my child, Lord knows how well. That was my child, she opened her eyes. That was my child.
I begin to cry. That was my child. I did my best. That was my child. God knows the rest. That was my child.